Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Rebecca Lee from Maybe It's Mercury, and today I'm interviewing Alan Downey. And Alan is an admin in our massive Facebook support group and has been for a long time. And he has a really compelling story that I've always wanted to ask him about. So this is what we're going to do today. So I guess the first question I was kind of interested in Alan is what did you do? Who were you before what did you do for a living and what kind of a person were you before you got sick?
Well, that's kind of a
Is it too big a question?
well, it's a long story. I'm unfortunate. Well, I've been around a few decades, but
That's true. If you asked me that question, I might sort of pause.
in in that the short answer was I was a truck driver, but I was a truck driver because I lost the ability to deal with people in the complicated ways from mercury toxicity. So truck driver was a compromise profession where I didn't have to deal with
Do you not
people.
deal with people? And
But
when did that
and
happen? About how old were you when you started that?
I it was 85. I did a little bit of it in the 70s because I never could find a job I liked. But in between, I had a couple of companies that I really liked running, and they dealt with people. And I'm lousy at keeping records, and I did it in my head. So I did all this stuff in my head, and I had a bookkeeper that insisted I give him enough records for the tax people every month. So that kept me straight. But uh, but I just lost the ability to deal with the people, and I, I I was a pretty good salesperson, and
That requires a lot of ability to deal with people to be a salesperson. So you lost that capacity to do that?
yeah, yeah. I I I I always thought really fast. I find out now in comparison to other people. Uh, but what I lost was the ability to edit and pick what I said, and so I just sort of lost the ability to control impulse
Do
pretty early.
How do you think you got exposed? You got exposed to both mercury and lead, right? Lead's
Well,
famous for impulse
my,
control problems.
I became like my mother. Uh, so I was around my mother in her later years, and I became like that. And she was probably mercury toxic, and she probably had dental work while I was in
Yeah,
utero, uh, because you can. And I don't really want to talk about my family members, uh,
sure, that's fine.
but you can see toxicity in some of them, and uh, but it's like really mild compared to what happened to me, and and so I was had difficult birth. I didn't I didn't talk until they made me talk when I was 4, and I was always I never had any. My older brother was charismatic, and I was like, I remember being with my grandfather and not talking. I needed to know what they wanted to say before I could talk. Uh, and 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 so I was born with eye problems, and all the medicines for eyes had that,
Chimerosal.
yeah, that stuff in them. So I got more that way. And then it was the 50s, and there was the same stuff was in the vaccines.
Yep.
So I got that. And then I went to a country dentist, and he probably drilled my teeth out to put amalgam in to up his profits
I hear it
because,
a lot.
yeah, and my teeth didn't like amalgam and it would crack and fall out. And so all through my life, I was always saving up money to go to the dentist to get more amalgam work. And when I found out what the problem was, I went back to my ex-wife and talked to her and identified when I got dental work, and it was really clear. And in 1988, I was I had three kids and a crazy wife, and I was working 80 hours a week, and I had dental insurance, and I went to this dentist, and he and and I didn't understand at the time, but he put a he drilled out every amalgam in my mouth and replaced it because insurance would pay for it. And he put a nickel bridge in
Oh my goodness.
that that was supposed to be stainless steel, but it contacted stainless steel and amalgam. So he put this battery in my mouth.
Yeah.
And and a few months after that, I was doing a 3-stop delivery in Charlotte, North Carolina, something that I was the company's best. I didn't know I was the top 10 driver, but I was of the 600 personnel drivers, but I was one of the top drivers, and I could do multi-stop deliveries, and I found them interesting, and they paid well, and I couldn't do it. I, I I'm a guy. I could be my brothers in tests. I could do a lot of things with my intellect, and I couldn't figure out how to do a 3-stop delivery. And what I've done all through my life, even when I was in the service, I would go out and find people, find addresses, and I couldn't get these stops off.
Did you
And
put two and two together? Probably not.
well, I didn't know what happened. It
Yeah.
was it was it was the only one of the values, one of the bedrock values of the culture I grew up in was, you know, work. You work and you get paid, and you work hard and you get paid. And my whole family, my siblings and my cousins, when people hire us, they're happy because we work. It's the way
Yeah.
it's the way it is. It was just the way it is. And
So you found yourself unable to work or just not able to do what you had done before?
I couldn't complete the task, and I didn't know how to ask for help. But there was one guy in the company who knew that I never asked for help, and when he found out I was 3 days late getting a load off, he got me a ride home. I took 2 weeks off. They gave me Prozac and Xanax and sent me back to work.
And what
I took
happened
it
after that? Did you get over it, or did you get any better? Or
from that day on. I had to recover from whatever I did. I was working. I would I would I would get up and deliver the load, and then I would go pick up a load, and then I would drive to where the next load delivered. I was delivering the load every day, and that would usually take from 6 in the morning to 2 in the morning. Well, I couldn't do that anymore.
you had to rest more, you
I
mean?
had to I had to rest more. I couldn't do anything on weekends but rest.
Yeah.
And everything I did, I needed to recover from. And I designed recovery into my life the best I could.
But this it sounds like this came on kind of suddenly because it was after the dental work, right?
Well,
That's
but it was months after it didn't work, and I didn't put it together.
no, but it, yeah, but it came on so it wasn't a gradual deterioration like a person with dementia or something. It was like it happened all at once, it sounds like.
Right, and I had gradual deterioration before that, and after that, I kept on losing cognition all the
It
time
started
and
getting worse.
control,
How,
and
how,
I kept
how bad did it get? And how long did that
in.
take?
So what I did is I ended up getting divorced right after that,
Yeah.
and and she left, and and then I couldn't keep the high paying jobs, so I took lower paying jobs, and uh, I started in 1991. I went out to fix myself, and I
Okay.
started going to Al-Anon meetings and all kinds of stuff, and I took a Gestalt, uh, became qualified to be a Gestaltist, and I studied all this stuff. This is an important part of the story. So I
Okay.
studied all this stuff. So so by by 2000, I could help other people. I could get you over a phobia. I could do all kinds of things, but I couldn't. Nothing would work for me.
Nothing would work. Yeah.
And about and so about I had a woman that I'd been going out with for 5 years, and I couldn't sustain it. I wasn't capable of sustaining it. Sometime around 2000, I don't remember. Uh, I still did stuff. I backpacked the Grand Canyon with a with another couple, her and I, and
How old were
but
you then?
soon
How old were you when you did when you backpacked the Grand Canyon?
I was, I don't know, 48 or something.
Okay.
I was in shape. I took jobs where I had physical labor involved
Okay.
because sitting would just kill you. If you just sit there and drive, it just destroys you. But uh, so around 2000, I discovered peak states and all kinds of this scientifically based consciousness study,
Yeah, yeah,
and
okay.
that motivated me. That gave me that gave me goals. That gave me a hope or something inside. It's what I wanted.
You-
And I hadn't had many things in my life that I really wanted.
So these
I,
were like high level sort of spiritual experiences. Is that what you're by peak states, what you're talking about?
this is intricate physical and uh, emotional and spiritual change.
Okay.
It's but I brought the guy to Memphis. I was bringing seminars into Memphis. I lived in Memphis. I brought a guy from Serbia in uh, to give a seminar. I took a whole bunch of people to Louisville to see another seminar. I was hanging around. I knew a lot of therapists, and they were coming to my seminars. And I was I was really elegant about my dysfunction.
It's funny where it led you. I mean, it's interesting where it led you, this toxicity. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got really deep into this, and what I found out was the therapists and the doctors weren't any help at all. They gave me that Prozac that numbed my mind, and Xanax made my mouth feel like a dust field. It was horrible. You couldn't sleep and you couldn't stay awake, and uh, and it didn't fix my anxiety. And I went through that two or three different times.
So
In the
tell me something about the symptoms you had along with brain fog and it sounded like you had a lot of cognitive issues, like not being able to and fatigue. But what else? What other symptoms did you have? think people will be
I
interested to hear
I
that.
became anxiety. I was so anxious. I didn't know I had anxiety. The doctors and therapists all wanted to treat the anxiety, and my body was screaming to help me. It
So,
wasn't my brain. They kept telling me it's in your head. It's in your head. So I studied all these different things.
so they thought it was childhood trauma or something.
Well, I have that, but that isn't what was causing my extreme anxiety. It was
I realize
mercury in
that.
my brain cells.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I understand that for sure.
And and once you got the mercury out, then you had to solve the anxiety. But so I kept on studying, and I also at the same time I volunteered. I became a Reiki practitioner, Reiki master. I volunteered at a caring center. I volunteered at St. Jude. Uh, I joined Mankind Project, the New Warrior Training Adventure, and I staffed and helped created seminars and helped keep that community going. Uh, I went on a leadership track, but it was hopeless. Their mentorship was for. They kept telling me to face the fear, and the fear wasn't fear; it was Mercury. And uh, and so anyhow, around uh, I after 2000 it was pretty bad. Uh, in the it was boring and limiting, and I at this all through the 90s too. I was a canoeist. I would go whitewater canoeing, and I had a job where I had Friday afternoon to Monday night off, so I could go canoeing and I could recover on Monday, and uh, and that I could work too hard. I worked myself to exhaustion through all this. I kept I would always work until I was exhausted, and uh, I
Does that make it worse?
it's a family trait.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand. Did that make it worse? I mean, like because
Well, I'm sure it's made my recovery harder.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, and in in somewhere in there in the 2000s, I tried diets. I tried exercise routines. I I did meditation. I I went to energy seminars. I went to all kinds of seminars. I, when I cleaned out my house, I had shelves of notebooks full of seminar materials. Uh, I went to trance dance,
What's
which
that?
is it's a way of breathing with music. You blindfold, everybody gets blindfolds on, and they and you breathe the breath of fire, and it puts you in an altered state, and you have transpersonal experiences. And there was the guy that did it has died now, but uh, he anyhow I had all these experiences, and they were amazing, uh, but they
Did you
didn't
psychedelics too?
no.
Oh, you just did
Uh,
it all like natural.
well, I I I didn't want to uh, the Prozac and the Boost Bar and stuff like that. It gave me a very real response of if I kept taking that stuff, it'd destroy my brain, and I didn't want to take things
Yeah.
that would destroy my brain because I still had hope, and I didn't have any reason to have hope. But somewhere in there, I started this raw diet, and
Yeah. Okay.
it made me. I got better. I mean, I got way better. I had my house clean, my yard done, and my car clean all at the same time. I mean, that's better. And and I
Why do you think that happens?
well, but what and I took a high paying job, and I was doing it. This was 2008, and I was doing it. No, I took a higher paying job a year before that, and I paid off all my debt. I paid off my house. I was completely debt free, which had been a which I'd started in 2003, and I was completely debt free, and I was building my retirement. And but the raw diet had cilantro in it. It's so I got better and I got better, and then I went totally crazy.
You
I
think that
lost.
you
I
got better
lost.
because of the cilantro and then crashed?
I think I got better because of the nutrition.
Okay, okay.
And then after a while, the cilantro overloaded my liver.
Yeah, okay.
And once it overloaded my liver, then the mercury stayed until it sequestered itself. That's just a guess. I have
Yeah.
no idea.
It's hard to know what the mechanics are behind these things.
But I deteriorated so I couldn't talk. My brain was going really fast. I'd rant, and I'd leave out words and sentences. So nobody knew. People would walk away from me.
I couldn't understand what you were saying.
I wasn't making any sense. And
Wow.
only a few people were kind to me. And it was horrible. And I lost the job.
Of course.
So that was 2012. And I kept all through this time, I pushed myself. I worked and I worked. And this job had a lot of physical in it. So I was lean and strong and crazy. And I'm neurodiverse. I never connected to people.
Yeah, yeah.
The what
Sure understand that. Yeah.
I see the way other people connect, and now I can feel the way they connect. Now I can actually connect uh, with people, but I still can't connect with a group of 5 people doing social small talk. That's like that, and they matter. I've had better times at a family dinner where everybody was speaking Portuguese uh, because it was musical. It was musical, and they were cousins, and they were catching up. It was a Christmas dinner, and they were and you could see them. I could physically see them connecting with each other and going through uh, their family and their culture's way of checking in with each other, and that was beautiful. But when I'm with a group of 5 people and they're talking, I just get stressed, or I have to
You're not
check
very good
out.
at cocktail parties then, I guess. That's a joke. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Women have told me they regret taking me to parties. uh, but so, but this is one of those stories where I lost my good job, but my old boss took me back, and he had had uh, a heart attack, and it had affected his brain, and he was like I was, and he had trouble making decisions and all this different stuff,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he put up with me, uh, and it was really kind of entertaining because I suffered because he suffered because he couldn't make decisions that made my job difficult. And but he survived all that too, and his company's doing fine. But
He got better? Did he improve?
well, I don't. Yeah and no, he didn't. But he improved, and what he improved on is understanding his difficulties and solving his problems by delegating
Okay, so he worked out a strategy to manage.
to to make his company successful. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and his son helped a lot, but uh, so I'm desperate at this point because I'm out of control, and
Were you
I,
still
I
doing
don't
that diet? Were you,
know.
oh, you stopped the diet at least. Yeah. You
Yeah,
stopped the
I
cilantro.
was I was still doing the best I could to do a whole foods diet,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but I stopped the raw foods. and and I and I was uh, I I found this doctor, and I sent this angry. Everything I did was angry. I sent this angry email to him, and I didn't get a response. But just a few months later, I was at my doctor, a doctor I knew who I volunteered with, who had no clue what to do with me in personal or professional. And I mentioned thyroid, and he referred me to this doctor that I had written an email in to treat me for thyroid. I was ordering thyroid meds from Australia and taking them myself
Yeah, yeah.
because my mother was hypothyroid, my grandmother was hypothyroid, and I was obviously hypothyroid, and nobody would treat me.
Yeah.
And but he referred me to this doctor,
So
and
there's the same doctor that you wrote an angry letter to?
yeah,
Okay,
the anger wasn't aimed at the doctor. The anger was aimed at the, well, whatever. But
whatever.
it wasn't personalized. I didn't threaten the doctor in any
So
way
is he
or
a
his institution.
personality on, was he a personality online or something that that's how you sent him that
No,
letter?
no, it's just he's a great doctor. He's
Okay, go ahead.
he doesn't take insurance, but anyhow. So I went to him, and they said, okay, but it'll be 6 months before we have an appointment for an intro because they do this half day intro, and I had to pay for it. This was going to be $1,500 and
Boy.
a whole bunch of tests, and I went, and then just like 3 days later they called me back and said we have an opening in like 7 days. Can you make it? They had a cancellation, so they worked me in, uh, and uh, and then I went to the appointment, and they use some thermograph. They
Yeah, yeah.
thing so he can tell whether there's dysfunction in your body.
From a thermography thing.
Yeah, and many years experience with it. So
Okay.
he's like a pro with that stuff.
All
Uh,
right.
and and he did all these tests. And when I was checking out, they told me uh, that uh, the doctor had an agreement with the testing company that if he didn't charge a patient, they wouldn't charge a patient. So there was no charge
So they
for
didn't
today.
charge you.
They didn't charge me for the intro
Why?
because he's a real person.
He was a real doctor. Okay.
But he was a real
Hallelujah.
person who
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
doctor.
Wow.
And
Okay.
and and that was the nicest thing anybody ever did to me for years.
Yeah.
And anyhow, I kept going back to him. And in 2015, he told me, there's nothing wrong with you. There's no diseases. He wouldn't label me as chronic fatigue or IBS. I had severe gut problems, but I never mentioned them because I was crazy, and that was what my body was screaming at me to do something, and it wasn't my gut that was a problem. So I never got into all the little things that were wrong. Just the I can't think, and I can't sit down, and I can't stand up, and I can't relax, and I can't find places. I was getting lost. I couldn't find my daughter's house.
Yeah.
So this doctor told me that there wasn't anything wrong with me, that medical science could label as a disease. He didn't tell me I was okay. He said, you don't have any diseases.
Okay.
Okay. And he was very respectful. And he sits down and talks to you for a half an hour. He doesn't do a 7 minute
He didn't tell
thing.
you to take Prozac.
And he had all my blood tests charted and marked and everything. And he'd suggested supplements that are very similar to what Andy suggested. He had Andy's books on the shelf.
He did. Oh,
He had met Andy at a conference. He knew him. He talked to him personally. Uh, and he and so he said, "Why don't you go to my dentist and see if you're having?" I always forget this. Uh, what is it when your mouth creates electricity? Uh,
a galvanic effect.
yeah, see if you're having a galvanic effect that's affecting your brain.
If you well, it's making it makes the mercury in your teeth evaporate faster.
What it the
Maybe it affects your brain
so
too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
mix metals in a salt solution,
Yep. It's like a battery.
create electricity, and in the process it dissolves the metals.
It does, yes.
And so I went to this dentist, and I didn't get this when I went, uh, but he looked in my mouth and he said sardonically, "Well, I guess you might have some galvanic effect." And he didn't get out his instruments because he didn't need them. He could see the ineptitude of the dentists that had worked in my mouth.
They had, yeah, massacred you.
He could see the nickel touching the stainless steel, touching the amalgam. Uh,
Oh.
and I went home from that, and he gave me an estimate, $40,000 to temporaries.
$40,000 to fix that situation?
Yeah, I'm sure his kids drove Beamers to Harvard, but so
Oh,
I went home and I Googled, and this time I had 100 tabs open on my computer, and I Googled, and I found Andy Cutler
but
on the
how come
Yahoo.
the doctor didn't point you to Andy Cutler? He had his books and everything. Looking at you, didn't it occur to him to tell you that you had mercury poisoning? No.
No, and I didn't know he had Andy Cutler's books at that point.
Okay.
I didn't learn that till I went back. But
Go ahead. Tell me. Tell
I
me.
found Andy Cutler, and I found Yahoo, and it was
Yahoo Group. Yeah.
and I started. I went to the. I went. It, it was. I had to go through the tabs one at a time to remember what tab I was looking for. I couldn't remember what tab I was looking for. It was I didn't have it, and at the same time, I had the discernment to find Andy Cutler,
Yes.
and uh, and I would it was Yahoo, and Brian and Linda were helping, but it was chaos. It was really hard to discern what was going on.
The
I,
Yahoo Group, that old Yahoo Group. Yeah.
yeah, it's basically without moderation, and and uh, and I ordered amalgam illness, and I would answer questions. I would find the answer to the question, and I would copy paste, and then I would go back and copy paste the answer into the questions on the Yahoo form, and that would take me 15 or 20 minutes because I would lose everything in the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I went to the store to buy the core floor, I think 6 times before I got the correct ones. And I couldn't organize well enough to take back the things that weren't right. I would make a list and I would go in, but I would come home with the wrong things, and I would do it again and I would do it again. And everything I did was like that. It would take 2 to 3, 4 times to get it done. That was worse than the car. That was mowing the lawn. It was everything. It was just this. Everything was so hard. Uh,
I
everything,
yeah.
and and I uh, and I found. Uh, so I can't remember the name of the dentist. Dr. Lagos,
Dr. Lagos in Tijuana. Yes. Let's give a
and
big shout out to Dr. Lagos. Yeah.
and I was looking at dentists in Costa Rica, and I was about ready to commit to one of them, and I figured out that I had a passport card. I mean, I had the flight up and was ready to book it, and I went through everything again because I'd been through everything 15 times, but I knew I didn't do things, and I looked, and it required a passport. I only had a passport card.
Okay, to go to
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica.
And so that defaulted to my other choice, which was
Talk
Tijuana.
Dr.
And
Lagos, yeah.
and I ended up with Dr. Lagos because of somebody else. And and I booked the flight. I figured out how to get the money. And that's the thing. I got down there, and I uh, to the airport, and I had to ask people how to get to the border. And you take a bus to the train, and then you take the train to the border. But the train couldn't get to the border, and we had to get off and get on a bus and go to the border or some stuff. And I got to the border, and I had the day before I had carefully laid out the address of the motel and the dentist office.
You lost
And
it.
I got to the border. I go across the border. I've heard all these stories about how everybody screws everybody when you go to Mexico. And I'm at a taxi, and I don't know where I'm going.
Had you lost the
And
address by
I
then?
couldn't I couldn't locate the address.
Couldn't
It
locate
it,
it.
it wasn't that it was lost, it was lost in my confusion. It
Yes,
was right where I put it, wherever that was.
yeah.
And this taxi driver helps me find a motel. And I didn't intend to, but I had gotten Mexican money, and I over tipped him, which is probably a good thing. But because he didn't screw me, he charged me the right amount,
And he
and
helped
he
you.
didn't, and he persisted when I didn't know where I was going. He kept on, and he got me there.
Yeah,
And
sometimes people are so kind. Yeah,
and they live that way. That guy lives that way. He's always that way, you
yeah.
know.
They're out there.
And it's most people actually.
You think so? Yeah, maybe that's true. It's just that the psychopaths seem to take up a lot of space.
They
But
make a lot of
anyway,
noise.
yeah, yeah.
So that I was there, and the next day I went and I walked. I think I got there on a Saturday, and I waited, and I had a day. But then I walked to the dentist's office for the appointment on Monday, and I couldn't find it. And I was hitchhiking home from school when I was in fourth grade. I, I, I knew every address in town. I mowed lawns and delivered papers. I've been finding places forever, and I couldn't find the place with the address on the door. And it was such a hopeless feeling.
Yeah.
And then they came out and took me in.
So I think you said that you sat down in despair on a doorstep, and that was a dental office. Is that what
Yeah,
happened?
I'm always early, and I knew, and I walked the whole street. It was a beautiful street. It wasn't hot. You could hear the ocean. You could walk to the end of the street and be at the border, the ugly fence between the United States and Mexico. And there was a restaurant down there that served food that I would eat, that had a patio to eat on, that I went to several times after this. Uh, but but I walked until I couldn't figure out any more ideas to pursue, and I just sat down on the step and sat there for about 10 minutes, and they came out and got me.
So it didn't cost $40,000 then?
No, it was 15 something. That's for for amalgam removal and root canals removal and uh, crowns and bridges and all that stuff.
15.
I went back again uh, 6 weeks later. I don't know how much later. I went back again and got the rest of it.
And how did you feel after you got your teeth done? What happened?
I got to start chelating. I did DMPS, and it was like, you know, very rarely have I taken a pharmaceutical and been happy. And it helped. It let me know that it was what was going on,
It
and
lets you know that it was the right thing to do.
that's what I got out of it.
Wow.
That might have been optimism, but that's what it felt like to me. It it cemented my determination.
So you did the DMPS for 3 months, and
Yeah,
then you started the lipoic acid.
yeah.
What level, what dose did you start at?
I was at low doses. I was at, I don't know, isn't it 5 milligram DMPS? And
Okay.
I went up like an idiot and tried all these different doses and was inconsistent, and the same thing I tell everybody not to do.
So you made a lot of those typical mistakes everybody makes at the beginning.
Yeah, I overthought everything and tried to fix everything, and but then I hit the dump, and in the dump I did 2.5 milligrams DPS, 2.5 milligrams ALA, 3 milligrams EMPS.
Which
I
one
don't
of
remember.
those small amounts? Yeah. How long did the dump, by the way, is, anybody's listening might not know what the dump is. It's
I'll
it's
say what it is.
you go ahead, you explain it.
It's a stall phase, and uh, it's a place where the body releases small amounts of mercury uh, in as a response to the the toxin as a result of the lack of exposure to the toxin. The chronic exposure to the toxin keeps the mercury in the cells, and when you take that away, the cells release some.
They can it can diffuse out across the cell walls, yeah.
And,
That's
and it's not very much
but it's
yet,
enough.
but in a person who's already has all their tissues or the glands and organs filled with mercury, it's a lot. And it was really hard on me. I hit one place where I couldn't do anything. My body wouldn't accept salt. It was, it was, uh, you can still find it in the forum, that discussion with Andy. And, and I went, I used, I, I took, so page 119 of Amalgam Illness, where it talks about adrenal deficiency, and and I quoted that. I made it my I used that to describe my symptoms and took it to my doctor.
Is that when you go berserk because of your adrenal symptoms? There's one, I mean, I had a client once who was just absolutely batshit and, freaking out all the time. And Linda sent me to a page in Amalgam Illness. I think it was that one. She
Right,
said it was her
right.
adrenal, this person's adrenals. And Andy talks about, like, I guess you just get too much adrenaline because
Yeah, your body doesn't have the glucose it needs to process sugars, and so it starts using adrenaline to do that. And
okay.
it's important. What I didn't understand until recently is the the common non-mercury adrenal dysfunction is high cortisol, and it causes its own set of problems that sound very similar, but the mercury person has low cortisol and high
Yes.
adrenaline. The
Yes.
and the non-mercury toxic person whose body gets dysfunction has high cortisol, and the way to solve it to to stimulate adrenaline and use adrenaline. Uh, in You can do that by aerobic exercise. I mean, you can do that in various ways, but
If we do
but
aerobic
it,
exercise, we totally crash.
yeah,
Too many cortisol. Yeah.
it's so opposite that I couldn't understand that for years what they were saying, and now I get it. But I was and I got prescribed uh, what's the other aldosterone. There's a so I was taking adrenal. I was taking hydrocortisone
Yeah. Yeah.
and aldosterone and progestone,
Progesterone.
progesterone, and something else, and to get up in the morning.
Right.
And it was so I did that for a while, and I got where I could do DMPS through the dump, and then after the dump, my dump lasted 7 months, and then it went away, and it didn't come back. But I went up in dose uh, too fast,
Yeah.
and and I was and I was taking those pharmaceuticals, and my liver. This is in retrospect. I had no idea when it was happening. My liver was still very compromised from mercury, and I believe the cilantro got it into the cells of the
Yeah. Got
liver,
it into your liver. Yeah.
and it was in the cells of every gland, and all the glands that whatever they say, the adrenal gland and the liver and the pancreas and the hypothalamus and all those glands work together and they communicate together. And when they all have mercury in them, none of them get the right signals.
It's amazing that you function at all, isn't it? But
I,
people still do
and
somewhat.
I and I worked.
Yeah.
I was I was I was if I didn't work, I wouldn't. It would eat up my retirement so fast that I would never get to retire. You know, by this time I was what uh, 40, 50, 60, 60, over 60 years old. And and uh and I also was crazy, and I couldn't stand constraint. And so I was afraid I was going to run my mouth to the kind police officers out there, and they're going to restrain me, and then I'm going to really run my mouth, and they'll drug me, and they'll kill my brain because I was so. When I got tired or stressed for a long period of time, I didn't have any control.
Yeah.
And at one time, I got pulled over in this, and I, I didn't do anything. I was driving home from work, and this guy pulled me over, and he was screaming at me, and I can't hear. I'm wearing hearing aids and headphones so I can hear. And and he tries to pull me out of the car with a seatbelt on. I mean, this is a really highly trained
I
DEA
guess
official, right?
he had some
He's
problems of his own, huh? Yeah.
he's making $70,000 or $80,000 a year plus all the benefits for being on the road, and he doesn't know to take his seatbelt off. Anyhow, uh, I I stayed. I laughed at him at one point, but uh, he didn't have anything on me. If he took me anyhow, but I told I told the I told a DOT officer off one day, just to his face, because I didn't cuss him or anything, but I told him what they were doing. They were harassing truck drivers to get paperwork, to get money. And I just read it off to him. He said, I'm not like that. But anyhow, it was it was pretty hard, and I don't know why I made it through, you know. When that, so all those drugs and 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 doing too much, and I got to a point where I couldn't I couldn't chelate, I couldn't take supplements, I couldn't do anything.
Really? Because you push too fast?
My body, I don't know. I think I don't I, pushing too fast was part of the problem, but part of the problem was pushing myself to exhaustion every day of my life.
The working, yeah, 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 yeah.
You know, the way I lived, and and anyhow, I went into a pretty dark place. This is 2018 or something. I kept on interacting on the forum.
Was this the
Uh,
Facebook group by then?
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. The Facebook group came around in 2000, in late 2015 or 2016. Linda got the Facebook group going, and not long after that, she asked me to be a mod, and I wouldn't, just like you, I wouldn't do it. And I didn't. Rebecca asked me to do this a long time ago, and I kept saying I didn't want to do it. And and finally somebody else convinced me to do it, and I started modding,
Yeah.
being a mod, and and I did get better. I did get better cognition even during the. I mean, I got better through the whole thing. I got just a little bit better, just a little bit better, just a little bit better.
That's how it
But
goes.
and but I still couldn't. I had to use a GPS to go anywhere, and I'm a map guy, and I had to use a GPS to go anywhere. And I walk. I always walk, and uh, I got to in 2016 and through 2000. I don't know when, but I'd walk a mile or 2 miles, and I used to walk 3 miles on the way home from work. You know, just stop at a park and whip off 3 miles and go on home. And I would walk. I backpacked the Grand Canyon without training. I didn't need to, and my whole life I could go walk 10 miles, and and now I can go walk 10 miles. And but it was so hard to get there. And but
How long did it take before you think you could really notice that you'd started improving?
well, after the so in 2018, 2019, all through COVID, I got really isolated and alone, and I was reclusive, and I kept walking, but I'd go walking, and that was all I could do. That was my day. That, but that's
Walking
how strong. Yeah, I'd just go walk 3 miles, and I'd come back, and I'd have to lay down.
and
And
chelating. You were chelating through this whole thing.
I didn't chelate. I didn't start chelating again. I don't know when I started again,
Oh,
but
so
I started again. I got where my liver got better. I think, my liver got better, and I started being able to take supplements again. And during this time I was doing healing work, and in there I did a process where I healed something. And I knew I can't tell you what the process was because my memory was less than 5 minutes at the time, but I knew something happened, and so I took action on the belief that something happened, and I got more, and pretty soon I was chelating again, and I started chelating lead.
Yeah, I was going to
And
ask about that, about the lead.
so when I so I can smile now, right?
Couldn't smile before.
And I well I could make my face smile, but it didn't feel like smile. And
Okay.
and I and during a lot of this time, laughing was painful. I mean, that was one of my symptoms. Was it actually hurt to laugh? And
How
that
did
was
it hurt? How did it hurt you physically to laugh?
yeah, it was emotional, but it felt physical. I had a lot of stuff in my throat. And a combination of, of glands and emotions and physical. Uh, who knows? But this part is really complicated for me, and uh, and it might be all that dental work. but uh, but anyhow, I started doing lead, and I got where I could smile, and also uh,
So lead is for lead we use DMSA, which is another chelator. In case people are listening and don't know anything about this.
and I had used DMSA over the years, but it was too much for me.
Oh,
It would always be too much for me. And I
but
could do I did rounds here and there, but finally I did a round. I did like 6 milligrams every other week uh, for 6 or 7 weeks, and then I started doing every third week, and
okay.
pretty soon I was doing every fourth week, and I started raising the dose until I got up to 25. But once I got it doing that every third week, every fourth week, I got relief of symptoms. I got smarter, and my face became animated. And in my it really uh, it's hard to say because so during this time, during the whole time from 2019 on, I go to a body worker who does Rolfing. It's structural integration.
I did that
my
too. Hmm.
my whole life I was very, very tense. My body was very tight, and I would have cramps. And so I did the Rolfing, and then like I say, I know all these healing processes, so I would do them. I would do some of them, and then I would walk, and I started. I went to Leadville. I haven't said this, but when I retired, I bought a travel trailer, and I travel around the West. Since 2019, I've lived in the in a it has a 20-foot floor. It's a little bitty travel trailer, and I live on. I visit uh, national forests and BLM land. I don't stay. I stay about 2 weeks or so in a place, and then I move. And I've been going. I went to Leadville, which is 10,000 feet, and I couldn't breathe.
What's Leadville?
Leadville, Colorado. It's a it's a beautiful little town. It has turquoise lake. It has this beautiful. It's a beautiful place in Colorado. Uh, and but it's 10,000 feet elevation, and I couldn't breathe. And I tried what the doctor said, didn't do anything. And so I started trying breathing. So I learned Wim Hof, and I learned what Patrick McEwen teaches, and oxygen advantage. And and those and so that confronted all that tension too in my body. And I started going into cold water like Wim Hof does. So I do cold exposure, and so since 2020, I've been breathing and doing cold exposure. And cold exposure is important because uh, it demands the body use its glandular secretions in a certain way. It does vascular. Your body shuts down and vascular restriction or
Yeah.
constriction, and then the opposite, whatever that word. is, and but in that process, it actually lowers cortisol, but it utilizes adrenaline in a proper way. So I couldn't do it the way they do it, but I do it for a while, and then I'd go back and do it some more. And this last couple of years, it's become very important. And I think some of this is because I work to exhaustion every day that I need to do this.